So today we're going to be talking about a tool called SkillBlox, and this is one of the ways in which we are focusing our efforts on increasing access to open education resources. So it's a platform that's been around for a couple of years now in what we called a beta state, and we just launched a re-release of it with some new features and some new content, and we have a bunch of new content and features to be developed in the coming months and actually the next year. So we're going to very quickly talk about what SkillBlox is and then do a feature walkthrough and look at some of the new features that are part of the platform. I'm also going to share out some sample SkillBlox so you can consider how you might use SkillBlox with your learners and then give you some opportunities to join the crowd. As Rachel said, this is part of the EdTech Center's Crowded Learning Initiative, and our real belief here is part of the solution to expanding access and awareness of open education resources is you. So before I begin, I want to, in the chat, if you could, just share, maybe you are super savvy and you can find a link right now, but just generally, if you wanted to teach your students something like creating safe passwords, where would you go? What sites would you go to find content that you could use to teach students about creating safe passwords? So go ahead and just share your ideas in the chat. GCF Learn Free, Google is you can always Google Coursera, Digital Skills Library. Jose, thanks for that plug, which is a library that we created as part of one of our EdTech makerspaces. So sure, you could just go to Google, but what we know when you Google is there are tons of resources that then get yielded. Platzi for English speakers. All right, we're going to have to jot down some of these ideas. Please keep them coming. When you do a Google search, or even when you explore various websites, we often run into the situation where there is just a lot of content out there, and it becomes very difficult and time-consuming to sift through that for educators. Not only do you have to see if the content is accurate, but you also have to verify if it's current, especially on things like digital skills. Certain things become antiquated very quickly. We also need to see if the content is engaging, as well as whether or not it's truly aligned to the skills that we want to teach. And so our approach to solving this problem with the Crowded Learning Initiative is actually twofold. One is an EdTech makerspace service learning professional development process where we engage teachers in actually looking at various open education resources and the activities within and evaluating those, curating them, adapting them, and creating mobile-friendly activities using them. And ultimately, what we're doing is taking those resources that we curate from high-quality sites and putting them into the SkillBlox platform, which we're going to talk about now. And what SkillBlox was really basically an experiment to figure out how could we make it easier for people to find open education resources aligned to the skills that students need. And we knew from experience and looking around at how teachers were finding content, they relied on publisher resources oftentimes to, especially in things like reading and math, to find lessons that align to things such as the college and career readiness standards. But we also knew that there were great free and open education resources out there that also had engaging online activities that could be used at any time and any place that did align to those skills, but they hadn't been aggregated basically and pulled them together in one place. And so with SkillBlox, this is a platform where we took publisher alignments to the college and career readiness standards, and we took resources such as those that you see on the left, and we pulled all of those things together so that you as an educator could go into the SkillBlox platform, find a skill that you're interested in teaching your learners, and see which activities from these various resources align, ultimately allowing you to take the activities that you want and put them into learning playlists. These playlists allow for you as a teacher to, sorry, I'm trying to move my little, there we go, allow you as a teacher or tutors or instructors to provide learners with a variety of activities that support learners. So in the examples that you're seeing here, in addition to 2 print resources and references to the lessons within, there's 3 different open education resources that are cycling through here. One is this simulation, one is a set of different activities from CK12, and one is one that many of you might be familiar with, Khan Academy. So what we're going to do really quickly is jump into the SkillBlox platform, and I am going to show you the process of actually creating a SkillBlox. I should have mentioned at the start, I sometimes forget to do that, that SkillBlox is a completely free tool that you can use, and it's free for teachers, it's free for students. But I, as a teacher, am going to go in here and I am going to log in. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, there's, in order to create an account, you can just go down here. And now I am in. Now, when I go in, you're going to see that I have a bunch of different skill blocks that I have created. So I'm going to build a skill block considering the question that I posed at the start of this session, and that was creating a strong password. So if you're familiar with SkillBlox, before we just had math, now we have math and digital literacy, and we'll be adding 4 additional content areas in a couple of months. I'll talk about that momentarily. But with math, the way that it's always worked and continues to work is you can select the levels of a student. So see, these are the CCRS levels. And when you select a particular level, it filters down to the domains that are part of that level within the CCRS standards. From there, you can navigate and to a skill, and you can find activities that align to that particular skill within the SkillBlox library. Now we're going to go into digital literacy because I want to find something on creating safe passwords. And so for the digital literacy topic area, we've broken this down into the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Digital Skills Framework. And so that's organized into these 3 broader areas and these topics within. So things like communication, creation, information skills, lifelong learning, but creating passwords is one of the essential foundations or gateway skills. And so when I go down here, I can see all of the different skills under gateway skills, one of which is create safe passwords. When I click on that, I see that there is a number of activities. This might take a second. There's a number of activities, 19 in all, that are in the SkillBlox library that align to that particular skill. So somebody in the chat mentioned Goodwill Community Foundation. So GCF Learn Free is a really great resource that has lots of digital skills content. The Public Library Association also has great content at a maybe more simplistic level or foundational level. And as you can see here, they have resources both in English and Spanish. So I'm just going to click on this. I could click on many of these. One of the things that we are working on doing in the coming year is figuring out how to make it easier for folks to preview activities. But I'm just going to select 2 activities here, and I'm going to click Save. And now that I've clicked Save, I have created a skill block with these 2 different activities. I'm going to give it a title. And if you know me and Rachel, we both love emojis. So I'm going to add a little emoji in there because that just makes it more fun. And so now I have this skill block. Now I can rearrange these activities as I wish to do. I can also add a note to the activities. So if I wanted to edit something or provide guidance to my students, I could, well, let me first examine the resource. So here is the resource itself. And this is a whole set of lessons on digital skills. So maybe I don't want this because this isn't specific enough. I actually screwed up. I selected the wrong thing. If I don't like it, I can simply remove the activity. So here's a little learning moment. So I'm going to go find the lesson or activity that I wanted, and I can go back here to digital literacy and this framework. And there was an activity within, here it is, tech savvy password tips. Here we go, internet safety, creating strong passwords. So I'm going to select that activity and save it. And now when I click on that, I see that this is an article about creating safe passwords. There's also a video, and it walks through a set of steps in terms of common password mistakes, problems, and solutions for solving those common mistakes. So this is a great activity. Here's that Public Library Association. Now, this is a full course and tutorial, but it's all about creating an account and setting up safe passwords. And so I maybe want students to work through this entire course. So here I can add a note. And for this one, I might say, read the video, read the article, and watch the video. Let's go. And then I can click add. And now that is part of my skill block. I can preview the skill block, and what you'll see is when I preview it, there's a QR code for that particular skill block. And that can be shared with students, as well as this 6-digit code so that students can log in. So I'm going to actually paste that in the chat right now, and then I'll show you how you can use that to open up this particular skill block. Now I'm going to close this preview. So adding notes is one of the new features that we recently added. We also added the ability for you to add your own activity to a skill block. So I have an activity here that I created in Jamboard that has students creating a strong password using these tiles, and they have the ability to drag them in. And one of the things that we've learned through our work in digital literacy and digital equity is that, particularly for English language learners, there's the added layer and challenge of the English language and the keyboards in capital letters on a computer and lowercase letters on a phone that make it challenging to create these passwords that have all of these requirements of having a capital letter, having a lowercase letter, having a number, and having an alphanumeric character. And so this might be an activity that I want to work students through and include in my skill block. So all I need to do in order to do that is copy that link, and then I click add new activity. And this is, we definitely have learned that we need more categories for formats, but I'm going to paste the URL in here. And I'm going to give it a name. And I created it, so I'm going to give myself credit. And click add. And so now that activity is here. And again, just like the other activities, I have the ability to add a note or other things. I could also add URLs for things that are online or from other websites that aren't in the SkillBlox library, such as this. So this is a password strength test from the University of Illinois. So the same process I would follow. I go to my skill block, I copy the URL, I click add new activity, and this, we'll just call a simulation as well. Here's the URL, UIC. That's not the title, that is the source, whoops, UIC. And what is this called? The password strength test. Because I might want to give students opportunities to try out different passwords to see if they pass this test. And so again, I can add a note to this resource. I can rearrange these in any ways that I want. So maybe I want to do this just understanding what these things are in terms of the elements of a password. And then I want to have them work through content and then practice using the password strength test. And that's it. That is how I create a skill block. Now I'm going to log out of my skill blocks here. And the code that I just shared with you, if you go to skillblocks.org, all you have to do is enter that code that I pasted in the chat and click on View Skill Blocks, and then you can open that. So you could share that code with learners, you could share this URL with learners, or in the future, you'll actually have the ability to share in more direct ways. And so let's just look at, because I know my time is running out, some additional ways that you can do that. Before I do so, I am going to share this skill block in the chat so that you can see some other examples of ways that you could create skill blocks. So here are it's a skill block of skill blocks, if you will, with different lessons. one for digital literacy, one for math, where I've integrated an interactive Padlet so that students can take pictures demonstrating their understanding of angles, and a math and digital literacy lesson where they learn about formulas and order of operations, and then they learn how to enter formulas in Google Sheets, and they solve word problems by entering the formula for multi-step problems so that they demonstrate both their understanding of order of operations, but also how to enter formulas in a Google Sheet. And so there's infinite ways that you could use this tool, and it's designed to be flexible because we're still learning of how people want to use it. When we released in March 2020, we saw that people were using it as a curriculum reference, just to organize resources. They were sharing playlists directly with learners, and they were also just finding specific activities that they could share using the tools that they typically share with learners. And so we added some features to support those use cases, but now we are going to be doing more development in the coming months. So we do have a project that is ongoing right now with the American Institutes for Research on using SkillBlox with teaching skills that matter. So we've added digital literacy, which is one of the 5 topic areas of teaching skills that matter. And now we're going to be adding the 4 additional TSTM content areas: civics education, financial literacy, health literacy, and workforce preparation. We are also adding new features to increase the ways in which teachers can share and make copies of other teachers' skill blocks. So that was one thing that we learned that people really wanted, and we just haven't built it in yet. So now, or soon, excuse me, you'll have the ability to share skill blocks and make them public, similar to the ways you do with many other applications, as well as to, if you have a skill block that someone else has shared, say the EdTech Center has shared this skill block with you, you can make a copy of that skill block. And so you can get your own copy of it and then adjust it as you see fit. So we're doing those new additions in the coming months, but we still have a lot more research that we're doing as part of this TSTM SkillBlox project. And so over the course of the next year, as we're adding both those features and additional features, we're going to be doing research around new features that we develop, such as how can we make it easier to explore resources within SkillBlox. You saw me searching through activities for create strong passwords. How can we simplify that process and make it even easier? How can we make it easier for teachers to share skill blocks with learners and with other teachers? So we're building in those 2 features that I showed, but we're also going to be adding student accounts. And so what does that process look like for a teacher sharing a skill block with their learners? And then what features can help guide learners and students to find resources that work best for them? So we're going to add things like user ratings and learners' abilities to say that they've completed a resource and say that they've liked a resource, using some of the mechanisms that we use online for finding things that we like recipes that we might try because of the number of likes and the number of people who have tried out the recipe themselves. And so today, as part of this presentation, I'm inviting you to be part of that work and join the crowd. So there's 3 ways in which you can actually be a part of the work that we are doing. One is right now, we actually have a contest for Digital Inclusion Week, which was last week, but where you can create a digital literacy skill block, and I'll show that in a second. We also have an upcoming Teaching Skills That Matter skill block EdTech Makerspace, where you can engage in curating more resources to be added to the SkillBlox library in those teaching skills that matter content areas. And as part of our Draw Digital Resilience initiative, we are going to be doing a makerspace in January and February where we focus on creating digital skills activities that focus on the language of digital skills.